My name is Amanda, and today the Majestic Earth Global Communications group will be presenting on improving mental health outcomes among international students. Specifically, we'll be looking at evaluating the mental health concerns among first-year male Chinese students here at Penn State. Our team here is composed of Amanda Feeney, Jessica Heberlein, and Mindy Krause, and we have worked very hard to put this campaign together, so we hope you enjoy. Our client is going to be Penn State Student Affairs / Counseling and Psychological Services. We will be working with them to look at first-year male international students from China and find out why they aren't seeking out the mental health resources that Penn State offers. Before we could jump into our research proposal, we first had to do some secondary research. Our secondary research showed us that there's a lot of cultural shock and assimilation problems here for international students coming from China. They have a lot of internalized anxiety due to family pressures and stressors and due to mental health stigmas in the country they're from. Additionally, there's a social media barrier due to firewalls in China that don't allow their students to access American social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. There's also a lot of only child syndrome in China due to a lot of the child laws they had in previous years. Because of this, a lot of children have a lot of stress levels put on them, wanting to prove their parents right and show their parents that they can succeed. On top of that, being an international student comes with a lot of legal matters, including making sure that you are performing your best to keep your citizenship status and to make sure that you're able to immigrate properly into the United States. Our primary research proposal is to send out a survey to male Chinese international students using Qualtrics that will be distributed through the Penn State email system. After the email is first sent with the survey, students will have 15 days to submit their survey results. If they do not do it within 15 days, the survey will be closed. There will be a total of 45 questions on the survey, and it will utilize the stress scales for Chinese students. The purpose of this survey will be to measure the demographics' feelings of experienced symptoms of depression and anxiety and what they would like to see to help them. There are a lot of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to look at when considering a campaign based off of this survey. Some of the strengths is that, we do have a lot of access to mental health resources across the country, and that mental health is becoming less stigmatized, not only here in the US, but in China, where during COVID-19, they were actually implementing a lot of new practices to make mental health normalized in China. Some of the weaknesses we might be presented with is that Chinese international students are faced with a lot of barriers. This includes a language barrier, and it also includes issues accessing the same social media accounts as domestic students here in the States, as China does have a firewall, as aforementioned on the last slide. Lastly, another weakness is that Chinese international students may feel ostracized by their peers and even by faculty and staff who may have unfair stigmas against them. Some opportunities of this campaign is that many Chinese international students use American social media sites as soon as they get here in an attempt to assimilate better, and it gives us a better chance to reach them. Chinese students also account for the largest international population across the US, meaning that this would be research that would help not only Penn State, but universities across the country. And our last opportunity would be able to build upon some of the pre-existing health resources we have here at Penn State and just make them better. Some threats to our campaign would be the attitudes about mental health in Asian cultures. There's a lot of stigma around mental health there, and it isn't seen as something that people have. It's often not even considered true. Also, there might be some bad word of mouth regarding campus resources going around here on campus. Maybe that's from students or faculty who have had bad opportunities. Bad experiences here, and also that these students may not understand American culture, and they might not think they'd be accepted if they went to therapy here, even though mental health is more acceptable here in the United States than in their home country. Our problem statement for this campaign would be that Chinese international students are suffering immense mental stress during their assimilation to higher education in the US. Penn State needs to address these cultural barriers to keep students from properly handling these mental stressors in order to help them succeed in their educational pursuits.
Based on the background information, the goals for this campaign will be to increase the utilization of Penn State counseling and psychological services among Chinese first-year international students by 33% in 2024. Our secondary goal will be to increase first-year male international students from China's knowledge about individual counseling, group counseling, and You at PSU, which is a 24/7 online counseling services available to CAPS by 20% in 2022. Our objectives will include to educate the target population about free and confidential mental health services at Penn State. We will work to destigmatize the utilization of mental health support and provide easier pathways to acculturation. Additionally, we will work with the target audience to reduce common barriers associated with seeking mental health support. With 1.1 million international students reportedly studying in the United States, Chinese students make up the distinct majority. Chinese youth are raised to be results-oriented achievers and often set high expectations for themselves and their academic performance. Chinese men report higher occurrences of depression and anxiety, yet are less likely to receive help. This may be due to China's outlook on men's mental health, which follows a long line of toxic masculinity, which often forces men to hold their emotions inward. On top of that, China's stringent family planning laws from past decades have created a generation of only children who feel immense pressure to do well and to make their parents proud. We feel that our audience is struggling to adjust to a new culture, that they are placing a high stake in their success, and that they are often uncomfortable talking about their mental health, and that they often do not know who or where to turn for support. For this reason, to best reach our audiences, we will employ a mix of outreach tactics that focus on each of the following audiences through a mix of spokespeople, traditional media, and digital targeting. These audiences will include first-year male Chinese students, upper-level Chinese students, domestic Penn State faculty, staff, and students, and the parents and families of first-year Chinese students. Culturally relevant messages to these audience will include the following. To the target audience, we will aim to normalize mental health support and the struggles that Chinese students face and destigmatize the instances of getting support. To Chinese upperclassmen, we will work to entice this population to engage in mentorship opportunities and to help younger students seek success in acculturation at Penn State. Among Penn State employees, we will aim to raise cultural competency and to spread the message that the success and welcoming of each student is everyone's responsibility. And for Chinese parents and families, we will work to normalize instances of support and help students, and also provide them with talking points in which they can reach out to their students and ask about their mental health. Finally, the messages to engage the general Penn State population, particularly the student body, will work to build unity messages that extend friendship and welcoming messages to all of our Chinese students. We will be using a few practice communication theories to help us with our campaign. Inoculation theory will be helpful in reducing preconceived notions that Chinese students hold about their mental health. Social support theory will be used to entice upper-level students to engage with first-year students through mentorship programs. Elaboration likelihood model will aid in shifting the motivation, ability, and opportunity of university employees and domestic students to trigger responses that are more empathetic toward Chinese students. And finally, Chinese families will be enticed by attribution modeling, which will serve as a valuable tool in helping them recognize and understand the struggles that their students may be facing.
So culturally relevant media. So one of the pieces for this would be a welcome to Penn State audio message that would be made available in English, Cantonese, and Mandarin, as those are the most popular languages in China. And that message would be broadcast on Penn State radio stations, on the Belisario College of Communications COMM radio, and on Spotify radio. As well, it would include paid social media advertising, which would be placed on WeChat, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. As well, creating some organic social media content on TikTok and Instagram. Those are pretty popular. And sharing prevalent information resources on mental health and mental health support across the Penn State campus, utilizing some local newspapers, Penn State News, and the Parent and Family and Global Program e-newsletters. So culturally relevant approaches. The overall campaign is free to be yourself. We are here to help. And the campaign components include special events. So the welcome reception, table tennis tournament, and a karaoke and music walk and roll night. as well using social media, so using WeChat and Instagram for first-year pen pals to ensure that students are coming in knowing someone already. Digital outreach, including Penn State's CAPS and others, to create a new 24/7 online self-help program. Campus and community partnerships, so upperclassmen mentorship, further academic advisor and faculty and staff trainings on mental health, and the Parent and Families program. Paid advertising to normalize mental health discussion and seeking help, part of the overall campaign. And then unpaid social, so getting relevant Penn State University influencers and spokespeople who have maybe used mental health support in the past to create reels, posts, videos, etc. And then the campaign timeline, so the implementation of the mentor program would start at the very beginning and run the whole way through. So Q3 2021 to Q1 2023. The social media campaign would run the end of Q3 2021 through Q1 2022. Implementation of an orientation program would begin in Q1 2022 and run the whole way through. The faculty and staff and advisor training would begin in Q1 2022 and end towards the beginning of Q3 2022. And then the implementation of the general campaign would be around between Q1 and Q3 2022 all the way through 2023. Then these are some examples of creatives. So we have a flyer, an Instagram post, and then the story looked very similar to this, but fit to size. And then the postcard example, front and back. And on the far left is a billboard example, and then the further to on the right is a commercial storyboard for it. And in terms of evaluation, it would be using Excel documents or content calendars to keep track of advertisement and social media placements. Utilizing UTM codes to track where viewers are coming from, if they're coming from certain apps or posts, to know which advertising is working best. Creating a QR code passport per se for students so they can be scanned into certain events to keep track of attendance so you know what events are working and which aren't. As well, using insights provided by social media apps, using business or pro accounts to track likes, follows, demographics, etc. Looking at the number of people using in-person online counseling services before versus after the campaign, as well as how long they typically stay in and how many students are dropping out. And utilizing the Qualtrics survey to gauge student opinion on themselves, their culture, their race or ethnicity before versus after seeing the campaign. And thank you.